What's up, everybody? It's Mr. Falcongood again. Today's topic is growth of representative government in the colonies. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about what representative government is and what it is not. So go ahead and pause here and answer this question in your spiral. All right, representative government is a government run by representatives. Wow, that's helpful. Here's the key bit. They are chosen or elected by the people to speak for them. All right, so if it's a representative government, then the people have chosen them in some way. So like with our minions, right? They select some from amongst themselves. They become the representatives. The word democracy, and sorry, I'm not sure why this slash is supposed to be here. It is there when I'm not in present mode, but when I go to present, it ends up over here. Anyway, so it does not equal democracy, okay? And so part of this is just a confusion because we have a somewhat democratic system, especially in the United States. We've just started using the word democracy to mean representative democracy, but those are very different things, okay? The United States is a representative democracy. It's democratic in that the people choose the representatives instead of them being chosen for them. That's the democratic part, or the democracy part. But in a democracy, and we now have to use words like true or direct in front of democracy because of this confusion over the word. That is when all the people eligible to vote on each and every issue. So no representatives, right? And that not only would it mean voting on the issues, but like if we're going to draft some form of law or whatever, all of the eligible people, millions and millions and millions of eligible people in the United States would have to work together to create it and in order to then vote on it, right? Which would probably mean nothing would ever happen. All right, so again, democracy, right? All the people deciding, representative government selecting people to vote and choose for us. Okay, so here's another point for stopping and writing in your spiral, answering this for yourself. Given the definitions, was the Mayflower Compact a form of representative government? All right, so answer that and explain that in your spiral before going on. Okay, the Mayflower Compact did not create a representative government. However, it does have an impact and it contributes to the growth of representative government in the colonies because it was a self-government. And as time goes on and more colonies are developed, etc., then more and more of them are creating governments and doing it for themselves. Those governments tend to be representative governments. And that is because they are looking to the example of the Virginia House of Burgesses, all right? But the House of Burgesses was not created by the colonists themselves. They went and got permission. They worked it out, all right? In many of the governments to come, the people will do it themselves. And in that sense, the Mayflower Compact does contribute to the growth of representative government, okay? So some other things, this is hugely important, right? Obviously, the fact that England is a long ways away means that we got to make decisions for themselves, which we can, where is it? We can jump down here, right, and connect those together, right? We need to make decisions for the group, so we have to figure out what we want that to look like, because England is a long way from us, and we cannot wait for the boats to go back and forth and decisions to be made. Another part of that is this salutary neglect, which salutary means beneficial, okay? So because the colonies, so the opposite is also true from this, right? Because the colonies are a long way from England, England tends to sort of ignore them. Yes, they've created some rules and restrictions and things on the colonies, but they're not really enforced. And the colonies are more or less left alone to fend for themselves on these kinds of things. And so it's salutary neglect because they will have to do things for themselves, and in the end it becomes beneficial to them, right? It becomes a part of how they operate. All right, so going then to the House of Burgesses, right? It's modeled after Parliament, which is a legislative body, and it is a representative body. So, all right, there's moving in the right direction if we're going to talk about representative government. And members would meet once a year. It is the first legislative assembly in the colonies. Legislative means lawmaking. All right, so you should maybe make a note of that if you didn't know that already. Legis means law in Latin, so legislative means lawmaking. And the burgesses that were part of that legislative assembly were elected representatives. And so that makes it a representative government. Now, obviously, it was only white men who could vote, things like that, but it's the foundations, it's the beginning, okay? And of course, 1619, we don't even have Plymouth yet, England's second colony, right? So as time goes on and more colonies are developed, they are all going to be looking to this House of Burgesses as an example of how to create their governments. And an important note, one of those, the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut, is the first written constitution in the colonies. So other governments had been created, but no formal written document explaining the functions of the government and that sort of thing. Religion is absolutely important to this process, especially in Massachusetts. Puritans within towns tended to meet at the town church and make decisions. And because they were a very religious group of people, the rules that they made for themselves, the way that they organized themselves, that religious activity was a huge part of it. And then along with that, as different groups are coming and people are seeking religious freedom for themselves, which is what the Puritans were doing. But remember, the Puritans were seeking religious freedom for them, but they were not interested in your religious freedom, right? If you believe differently from them, they did not want you to be part of their colony. But as time goes on, other colonies where people are coming seeking religious freedom begin to recognize the need for religious freedom for not just themselves, but others, and begin to incorporate those ideas of religious freedom into their governments, which will ultimately play a role in the importance of those ideas in our government today. And then another opportunity to pause and consider and answer in your spiral. And that is all for today. I will see you next time.